Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that literally millions of your fellow citizens from coast to coast are all out on the streets. Well, that's exactly what happened on June 14th, 2025. It was a massive nationwide day of action, and in this explainer, we're going to break down how something on this incredible scale actually came together.
So the first thing you really need to wrap your head around is the sheer scale of this. We're talking an estimated 4 to 6 million people. Now that's not just some number on a screen, that's more than the entire population of a state like Connecticut. This wasn't just another protest, it was a truly historic event that forced everyone to pay attention. Which, of course, leads us to the big question, right? How does something like this even happen? What was the spark that ignited this movement and turned it into one of the largest single-day protests the U.S. has ever seen? Let's dig in.
To really get this, we have to go back to the beginning, the movement itself. It all started with a name, a theme that really clicked with people. You know, the No King's name was just a masterclass in political messaging. It was a direct response to the administration's own words, which had been using all this monarchical imagery. So the protesters just took that theme and flipped it, framing their demonstrations as a defense of democracy against what they saw as a slide towards authoritarianism. Super effective.
And look, this didn't just happen overnight. It was built up piece by piece. You can see the lead up here, with smaller protests in February and then again in April. But the choice of June 14th, that was pure political genius. It landed right on the president's birthday and a major U.S. Army parade, creating this incredibly powerful, symbolic contrast for the whole world to see.
Now, you don't get millions of people onto the streets by accident. This was a massive coalition effort. Think of it like a giant river formed by over 200 different streams. You had groups like the 50-51 movement and Indivisible as the main currents, sure, but the fact that you also had the ACLU, teachers' unions, and so many others, it just shows how broad this whole movement was.
And this quote from Ezra Levin of Indivisible, man, it just nails the entire vibe of the movement. He says, "Now is the moment to raise our voices, to affirm something deeper, that power belongs to the people." So you see, it wasn't just framed as being against the administration. It was framed as being for democracy, a powerful reminder of where the ultimate power in the country is supposed to be.
Okay, so we've got the why. Now let's talk about the scale, because the term nationwide day of action gets tossed around a lot. But this was the real deal. The numbers are truly mind-blowing. And get this, it wasn't just a big city thing. We're talking over 2,100 different locations. Just let that sink in for a second. From the biggest cities you can think of, all the way down to small towns, people were gathering. That incredible spread shows that this message was hitting home far beyond the usual activist hubs.
But in those major cities, wow, the numbers are just staggering. Boston reported an estimated 1 million people. That's basically a whole city of protesters. Los Angeles saw over 200,000, and Philadelphia had a crowd of over 100,000. I mean, these weren't just marches, they were like temporary cities built entirely on protest.
Let's just zoom out and put that into perspective for the whole country. The total turnout works out to be between 1.2 and 1.8% of the entire U.S. population. Think about that. On that one single day, for every 100 people in the country, at least one of them was out on the streets protesting. That is absolutely massive.
So the big question is, how in the world do you pull that off? How do you coordinate millions of people across thousands of locations? Well, the answer is modern, decentralized digital organizing. There was no single headquarters calling the shots. Instead, hashtags like #NoKingsDay turned into these virtual town squares on places like TikTok and X, letting information and plans spread like wildfire.
Okay, but the story gets even bigger, because this whole thing, it didn't stop at the U.S. border. The No Kings message really took off around the world, sparking this incredible wave of international solidarity events.
And this is where it gets really interesting, and frankly, pretty smart. Internationally, the organizers got strategic. See, in countries that have their own kings and queens, like the UK or Canada, they often change the protest name to No Tyrants or No Dictators. It was a really clever move to make sure the message was laser-focused on the US administration and didn't get misinterpreted. And man, when we say global, we mean global. Protests popped up all over the place, from US territories like Puerto Rico to 20 different countries. Major world capitals, Tokyo, Mexico City, London, Berlin, they all saw demonstrations. It was a powerful signal that the whole world was watching. So you have this massive day of action.
what happens next? A protest this big is bound to have some kind of an impact, right? So, let's look at the fallout.
Well, the impact was huge, and it was fast. Right away, the media was calling it the largest coordinated opposition of the term. The White House itself had to come out and publicly acknowledge how big and peaceful the events were. We even saw some state governments going out of their way to reaffirm the right to protest. And for the organizers, they didn't miss a beat. They rode that wave of energy and immediately scheduled the next big event for October, showing everyone this movement wasn't going anywhere.
Which leaves us with this one final, really important question to think about. What we've just seen is basically a blueprint for a whole new kind of political action. It's decentralized, it's driven by social media, and it can get millions of people moving. So what does it mean for the future, when a hashtag can bring a country to a standstill? That's a question we're all going to be grappling with for a long time to come.